Y'all, I wanted to share a 10 by 10 album that I created for Mandy and Matt. Mandy is going to surprise Matt for their 1 year anniversary. I really prioritize creating albums with my couples now just to help wrap up wedding day. Honestly, a lot of my couples, they end up just sitting on their photos or just on their phone. They don't really get to enjoy it as much. So I made this album proof for my bride, my Mandy. Like looking through the proof album, so I can't imagine how she's going to feel when she looks through these photos and relives everything. So when I make albums, I really try to keep it simple but choose the best ones that can highlight the day. This can range between like 80 to 100 pages depending on how much coverage you had. So with Mandy, she booked me for 5 hours of coverage, just a little bit before the ceremony to get some getting ready shots, and then doing the no look, and then doing the ceremony, and then a bit of reception. They had an earlier start time for her ceremony because it is hot. So we were really working with like late direct sunlight, which is not a huge problem. It's always something to consider when you do your wedding day, and then just talking to the photographer you're working with on how they will work with direct sunlight and lighting. So my biggest thing is always keeping my couples and my guests in even shade or even lighting. And then I use off-camera flash. So all these are with off-camera flash just to make sure they're well lit. Went out to the bridge at Tampa Palms Country Club, and then we were able to take really beautiful photos out there. They were such champions in July in Tampa with all the heat, and do not look sweaty at all, which is great. And especially if you're getting married in the summer, I would definitely go with an updo. It's still very elegant. She looks amazing. And then you won't have to deal with the humidity frizz many girls deal with. So it looked really good for that 20-30 minutes that we were doing bridal portraits after the ceremony. Here we go. We're going to reception. It's super cute. I really loved the edge to edge line. Sometimes I'll do some white borders, but I don't really love it. I want to maximize the space, make it look luxurious. Here we have the toast, prayers, and then they did photos with all the guests again at the dance floor. The AC, thank the Lord. And then we have some more family and friends. And then I just dispersed some bridal portraits just to balance out the story. And then we took some details of the setup for the ceremony and the photography start time. I like to get details if it is already ready. And then we have the cake cutting where I integrated some ring detail shots and then obvious feeding each other. Dancing and then the cake. I love this shot always. Just signifies, yeah, we're sharing that cake and we're eating it too. And then we end with some dancing with some friends and family, some mingling, some wise words. And then a shot, I always want it to be dramatic or something where it's saying, like, hey, we are starting a new journey together. And that is the end of Mandy and Matt's wedding day that took place in Tampa Palms last year at the country club. And Mandy chose this cover. She chose the text, and I made recommendations on the color text as well as the photo, what would look best. So yeah, this you'd get if you ordered an album. Me as your wedding photographer, I want to finish from the beginning when you get engaged all the way to the end where you're flipping back at your album with your spouse.